Hello everybody, and welcome back to the world yet again. Today is Progress Day, my friends. Today, I'm going to get some things actually going. I will start work on the city, and while I know it will not be done, I want to make enough that you can kinda know what to expect. So, let's not dawdle and get going. The first thing I started doing when I thought of building the city was I started making these coarse dirt lines to mark out where I thought I was going to have the roads. I end up tearing this down later because the way I did it just wasn't very smart, because I just make these one wide lines just sort of crisscrossing everywhere, and I don't end up liking it very much, so I'm gonna end up changing this so we can just kinda skip past all of that. I then start work on making some mud, because while the road in the city will not be made with mud, parts of the road to the city will be. The road that's heading down to the city is going to be very, very similar to the one I made for the road down by the river, so I'm probably just gonna speed through this because the process is gonna be basically exactly the same. And one speed later, we now have a path. After realizing that the coarse dirt pathing I made was kinda terrible, I run around between different farms of mine to collect some materials to make a red wool farm, because let's be honest, everybody maps out their builds with some sort of colored wool, usually red. So why shouldn't I? I have no other reason, really. Also, if you don't know how to make a wool farm, it's one of the easiest, if not the easiest, redstone-based farms to make. It's basically just a dispenser dispensing into a sheep that's in a cage that has an observer pointing at the block that the sheep is standing on, running into a block behind it. Don't listen to this explanation, it is garbage. Let me explain it properly, because that one was bad. Dispenser with an observer underneath it. Observer runs into a block with a redstone on top of it. Sheep. Shears inside of your dispensers. Mine for iron. Hopper minecart under the sheep standing spot. Sheep behind transparent glass wall. And yes, the transparent part of that is very important. And now we wait, because that is the one constant in any farm you will ever make in Minecraft, besides for, like, maybe one or two that are just really stupid, that I will probably never make, but we will see. During the process of making, I already have 20 wool, so it's pretty good, but most likely it is going to be expanded in the future. But anyway, let's get to waiting. After a few minutes of just doing odd jobs around the house, I've got my first full stack of red wool. I'm gonna take the fact that I got exactly one stack as a sign of good luck, even though it's a little bit suspicious. And now, let's get to actually properly mapping the area. I unfortunately do not have the replay mod yet, so it's still all going to be in first person. So let's place down a stack of red wool. Also, quickly, I do have replay mod a little bit later, so if you want to see that, it will be here soon. Yeah, that didn't take very long. I'm gonna need a lot more wool, and I'm not gonna expand the wool farm quite yet, so that just means I need to wait longer. And after waiting a good amount of time, not like an extreme amount of time, I didn't sit out for like an hour or anything, but a okay amount of time, I'd run back to my sheep pen to see that I now have almost 2 stacks of wool, which is definitely still not enough, so I get to wait even longer. But I'm actually gonna try and do some stuff around this time. And after more waiting, but like in a different way, I now have 2.5 stacks of wool, which I guess I'll start with that. I don't want to wait any longer, okay? Here, I am now starting to expand the road a little bit to make it look a little bit closer to what it's going to be when I'm done. I'm gonna end up flattening it out a bit too, so don't worry about that jankiness, but this is just to get a sort of idea. And yeah, I ran out of wool again, so I'm gonna need to get more of that, which means more trying to figure out what to do while the wool collects. During my waiting time, I find Weird Llama Dude and buy a couple seeds and a couple saplings off of him because those could be nice to have later on. He gave me a couple good things, so he gets to live. Lucky him. But don't worry, if he comes back again, chances are I'm at least killing his llamas because leads are really nice to have, and I don't have a slime farm. So yeah. I'm probably killing his llamas the next time he comes back because leads are good. I looked in my special cornflower chest and realized there was a name tag in there, which does not go in there, so I took it out and I put it in the valuables chest, but it does not belong with the special cornflower. I got a little bit more wool, so maybe I can finish off that first street. And surprisingly, the answer is actually yes. I did actually manage to mark out that entire street now. So that's one street marked out. More to go. I don't know how many, just more, trust me. I start actually working on getting materials for what's going to be the village itself, which I start off by making a brick of oak trees, because oak wood is pretty versatile, so it'll be nice to have at least a little bit of. As you may see, I now have the recording from the replay mod going, and I'm gonna try and use that because it looks really good, but recording and actually doing stuff with the replay mod can be a little difficult because the recording is easy, and then, actually moving the camera around and the clip is kinda hard. But I will try my best to get something good out of it. I head down into the basement to grab some deep slate because I want to use that to pave the roads with, because I think that would be a good block to use. I just really like deep slate stuff though, so I am mildly biased. But let's do that, and hopefully the next clip you see can be replay mod and not just more first person stuff. Well, I did actually manage to get the replay file working, so not in first person. Nice. The first thing I did was I made a dirt path over the red path that will be more accurate to where the path will actually be and the levels it will be at. As you can see, it's a little bit off the ground, but that's alright. I'll work on it as we go. After that, I go under and actually start filling in the dirt underneath where I have the outline of the path, because I don't want it to be hollow, because that could cause issues in the future. But luckily, it's pretty easy to just throw some dirt under there and fill it in. Unfortunately, right after finishing this, I was attacked by a very rich-looking zombie and some of his goons. Fortunately, though, I did remember to bring a sword, so it was pretty easy to just bully them away. But after dealing with that minor nuisance, it's time to start actually paving the road. I did bring the deep slate with me for this, and I cut it into a bunch of different varieties so that I have a more interesting pattern for the road. And yes, I do notice that I missed some of the dirt somehow. Don't worry, I do fix that pretty soon. Here is me, fixing the dirt. And with the dirt fixed, I can go right back to paving down the full blocks of deep slate onto the road. And I think it's looking pretty good. Right after this, I will be adding stairs and slabs to make it easily walkable, and so you don't have to jump at all when you're walking along it, which is always nice to have for a city road. Anyway, back to first person Lucy. We now have our dirt path just sort of going into the deep slate road, so I decided to add a little bit of deep slate into the path to just make the transition a little bit less jarring. And after a few more minor tweaks to the road, I head back to the wool farm to grab more wool, because I'm making more roads than just the one. But I'll be going through those ones a little bit quicker. The first area is going to come off of this weird part of the road, and is going to be a just 3 wide road that's gonna head up the hill. Here is laying down the wool part of the road. And then we have the dirt part of the road. Stress relief and acquiring leads, as you do. And last but certainly not least, paving this road. And after that, I'm just gonna make one more road for today. And I think the last road I'm going to make is going to be down by the water. As you can see, these are the roads, or road, depending on how you look at it. And now they are paved, which means we have 3 roads now. We have a main street, a road going along the water's edge, and lastly, a road kind of going up the hill. I'm not 100% sure about the buildings I'm making yet, but I do plan on making them fun. I want to have a pretty unique city, but we will see how it goes. Also, if you've been wondering where I've gotten all this dirt, it's from that hill behind my house mostly. Also some areas in front of my house that I just wanted to smooth out a bit, but mostly back here. And of course, before you can build any buildings, you kinda need foundations, so the dirt I also end up using to start filling in some cubes to build foundations upon. Also, in the future, I will be making this blend in better to the landscape and not just have these weird cubes in the middle of the city. It'll look better in the future when looking at it from the outside, but right now is not the time, because I don't have the dirt for that, even after all that mining. Also, I'm still not entirely sure about what kind of buildings I'm having on these foundations yet, but I do want to have these foundations set up now so that when I come through and start building buildings, I don't need to also bring tons of dirt for foundation making. On top of the foundations, I'm putting a mixture of deep slate bricks and deep slate tiles, very similar to the road, just less variance, but this is mostly for parts of the building that's going to be outside. The inside of the buildings are most likely going to have different types of floors, so there will most likely be changes to this. But that is our first foundation done, and we will see what kind of building I'm going to make on top of it. I build another foundation a little further down the road, and I think this is going to end up being a diagonal building, which I haven't ever really done before, so that could be interesting. I build another foundation up near where the first one was, this one being a little bit smaller than the others. I build another foundation up near the entrance of the city, and this one I kind of have an idea of what I want to do for it. I'm thinking a sort of rock shop mason area that will also be able to store some of the building materials I'm going to be using for the city. But I'm not entirely sure yet, but that is the current idea. Here's another foundation right next to that one. I decide to tuck a foundation into this little area where the road splits off because I thought that would be an interesting area to have a foundation. I also made it a little bigger because it did seem kinda small. After that, I head over to the tree brick that I made to start working towards getting some materials collected so that I can maybe start working on buildings pretty soon. With that being said, I think now is a good time to end off for today. I've started working on buildings, and since I mostly just wanted to lay out the foundations today, I think that the buildings will wait until next time. I do plan on collecting a few different materials, such as different types of wood, and probably some other things like the nether woods would be nice to have. But until then, I think that is the end of today's episode, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye.